Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Covington City Council meeting for Tuesday, August 13th. In compliance with state law, City Council special and regular meetings are held in a hybrid format with in-person, telephonic, and virtual options for public viewing and participation. With that, we'll call this meeting to order. And Krista, if you could please call the roll.
Councilmember Soltis. Here. Councilmember Porter. Here. Councilmember Hartsock. Here. Councilmember Herjehausen. Present. Councilmember Simoma.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Smith.
Here.
Mayor Wagner.
Here.
We have a quorum, Your Honor.
Thank you, Krista. If everybody could please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, first off, though, I want to explain to everybody in the audience and online, we are dressed in Aloha Night. This is our last meeting of the summer. And we're also promoting, we have our town hall meeting on Friday, August 23rd at Covington Community Park. So just to do a celebration, and our birthday is on August 31st. With that, we'll move into approval of agenda. We do have a new business item, agenda item number 3, which is to discuss a proposed ordinance repealing the annual vehicle license fee with the certification of passage of Proposition 1. Any other changes, Regan?
No, that's it, Mayor.
Okay. Take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the amended agenda. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda has been approved. Next up is public communication. I see only our senator here. Are the other two? 5 minutes? Perfect. I have no problem with that. Unless Senator Kaufman would like to just be up here with us. Okay, let's move into public communication. We will start with SR 516 corridor study update from Washington State Department of Transportation. Are they here?
Our panelists are being promoted on Zoom.
Oh, great, online.
Hello.
Welcome, April
Well, thank you so much.
and Christina. Welcome. Thank you both for joining with us tonight. I will turn it over to you.
Perfect. And I want to make sure, can I share my screen? I don't use Zoom often, so I'm not able to find it.
Right at the bottom.
On ours is at the bottom middle.
Ah, thank you. Found it. All right, just let me know when you can see it, please.
We can see it. Thank you.
All right, perfect. I'm going to go kind of quick, but I also encourage you, if you do have questions, please just let me know and I can slow down. So hello, my name is April Delchamps and I am with the Washington State Department of Transportation and I am a planning manager with what's called Management of Mobility. And we are tasked with planning with King and Snohomish County. And with me today is Christina Strawn, who is the King Area Traffic Engineer. All right.
Welcome.
So a couple of things I want to do. I want to give you a quick overview of the State Route 516 Covington Corridor Study, a little bit of information about our community engagement, and then some recommendations on next steps related to this corridor study. So our study limits are really focused near the State Route 18 interchange from Covington Way all the way to 168 Place Southeast. Some of the study context, this was an interesting study. We did this study in coordination with the city of Covington, and really where it came out was what's called an intersection control evaluation for Covington Way Southeast. As part of that, because there were so many closely spaced intersections, it was important that we studied the intersections directly to the east of Covington Way Southeast. And because of that, we started the partnership to do a corridor study that's really just focused on what is the intersection control that needs to happen at those 5 closely spaced intersections. Some of the purpose, we really were trying to understand the operations on 516 in order to equitably move both people and goods through. Start looking at access in order to ensure corridor users could access 18 as well as east-west on 516, and to improve safety for vulnerable users. A little bit on our community profile. This is something we do for every study where you assess using census data as well as environmental health disparities data to understand the community based on the data of who lives within about a half a mile of this study area. And here's some information related to some health disparities related to the area. These are grouped in environmental exposures, socioeconomic factors, and sensitive populations. Some existing conditions, something we do for each study, is we look at crash history to understand what types of crashes and where those crashes are happening. We do have some crashes in our study area that involve pedestrians as well as bicyclists. We also look at existing conditions. Currently, there are no bicycle facilities, and the pedestrian facilities that are there are considered what's called a level of traffic stress 3 or 4. And I think at a simple, what that means is that people have to walk right against the traffic lane. We also do an environmental screening, and this really just looks at what is the existing conditions. So as we push into design, what are the things we have to study more? A little bit of community engagement. We did 2 rounds of community engagement. The first one really was focused on understanding what are the needs and preferences of those within about a half a mile or that use that interchange area. Some of that started looking at what are the biggest issues that might be happening at each of the intersections. As you might imagine, each of the 5 intersections, the top thing that came to mind as a concern was related to congestion. But for 3 of the 5 intersections, behind that was safety concerns. And then there were some that responded there was no concerns with these intersections. Additionally, we had an online open house recently this past earlier this year and late last year. And really that online open house was starting to share some of the concepts that we had come up with in our recommendation for that intersection control at those 5 locations. And a bit of a preview, some of the takeaways are really related to some of the recommendation and concerns as well as support for a roundabout. Some technical analysis, I think at a high level, because we did start with this looking at the Covington Way Southeast, we first assessed what was happening at the Covington Way Southeast intersection to understand what was the best solution and control at that intersection. And then we started doing alternatives for each of the 4 intersections to the east. And we go through what's called pre-screening, where we assess whether it's viable and can be constructed and whether there's anything that would consider something that would make it not operationally work. A level 1 screening, which tends to look at things that are qualitative data. And then level 2, which looks at it is a quantitative analysis. So as starting with the Covington Way Southeast intersection, we studied a lot of options. One that's not listed here that's always studied is keeping it as a traffic signal as it is now. We also stopped at and looked at a bunch of different options for how a roundabout. Ultimately, what was selected is a multi-lane roundabout with an added eastbound and northbound right turn lane. We use this to develop different concepts for all the series of intersections. The first concept was a series of 5 roundabouts, starting at the Covington Way Southeast intersection and going towards the east. The next concept is roundabouts at Covington Way as well as 168, and then a roundabout at the eastbound State Route 18 on and off ramps. And then what's called a peanut, which is a joint roundabout to a degree at the closely spaced intersection to 164th and the westbound on and off ramps. The third option that we studied was a diverging diamond that's focused mainly at the on and off ramps as well as 164th and then the roundabout at 168 Place. And the fourth one we looked at, which was too hard to draw, to be honest, and wouldn't be easy to see. So we pulled an example in what's called a SPUI, which is a single point urban interchange. This would again focus heavily at the on and off ramps to State Route 18 as well as that closely placed intersection. Based on what we had done, and I didn't have a slide because I wanted to make sure I went fast, each of these 4 options passed the pre-screening. So they all proceeded to what's called a level 1 screening analysis. And as we do this, we start looking at what are the different performance metrics that we need to do. We looked at safety and traffic operations, and there's a couple of things listed here that we looked at. We also looked at accessibility, constructability, community support, and some environmental impacts, since we do have an area that's a little bit sensitive in this area. Our screening results are here. Overall, they performed decently. There was one that did not perform as well though, and that was the diverging diamond. So as we proceeded, we only proceeded to that level 2 screening analysis with the three, the roundabouts, the peanut, and then the spooey interchange. For the level 2, we did a more quantitative analysis where we studied traffic operations in 2025 as well as 2035, which are our design years and our build years, to assess how would they do. And overall, as you can see by these handy dandy circles, those 5 roundabouts really did perform the best. So on to the recommendations. So here is a bit of the recommendations. This is building upon what is really already been looked at Covington Way, to have a series of 5 roundabouts that would operate well together. The construction cost is high, between 38 and 46 million. That's today's dollars. And then the next piece is we always look at maintenance as we're going along. One good note here is that this, from here, we're not do not have additional funding to do design, but this really was in support to ensure Covington could go forward with that, the Covington Way Southeast roundabout. And then as we go forward, we'll be looking to figure out how to implement and do additional studies on this. Part of the reason we need to do some additional studies, we really was important to understand the intersection control at these 5 intersections. But one of the things we weren't able to do is to assess complete streets options. And WashDOT is subject to a new complete streets requirement for any project over $500,000 that we are delivering. Because of the narrow focus just on the intersection control, we weren't able to do an assessment. We also need to start looking at transportation system management and operations. It's likely we're going to need to phase this as we're starting to look, and then we're going to need to start looking at funding opportunities in order to kind of keep pushing this forward. And with that, I have our additional information here, and I'm absolutely happy to answer any questions.
Does council have any questions? Joe?
Sorry about that. I like this idea of for the roundabouts. I think I know that there are people who do not. Was something that was discussed when I was at National Night Out last week, that someone was very adamantly against roundabouts. But I think this will be, especially for this portion of road, it would be perfect. I do, however, think we need to look at adding a 6th roundabout at 172nd and State Route 516 for the simple fact of we have more accidents at that particular intersection than we do other areas of 516, and they can be pretty bad. Cars wind up in the T-Mobile, and that's not where we really want them. So I think if we could somehow, I know that would increase the costs, but I think going out from instead of stopping at 168, we go out to 172nd. That would be a good idea as well.
So as we start getting into implementation and start looking, we do need to do some additional study to assess like complete streets, and a couple of pieces that were just out the scope of this one. We'll be assessing kind of likely the whole kind of pieces right there. And I don't know how close 172nd is. I have imagined it's pretty close. And so we would need to assess the kind of like how it works with the 2 closely spaced intersections in a similar vein as that westbound off ramp and 164th, and how closely spaced they are.
Anybody else? Oh, Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to WashDOT for this presentation. We appreciate it. Couple questions. I was glad to see that focus on other modes of transportation will be included in your assessment. Making Covington, particularly downtown, walkable is a goal of this council, and want to make sure that that's not lost when these roundabouts are put in, that there need to be measures to protect both pedestrians and bicyclists. So just keep that in mind. I was curious, I know we're just getting in the initial phase, but what is the design aesthetics or the possibility for public art to be incorporated into those roundabouts? Is that included in the cost? Because I'd hate to see just basically industrial having construction in the middle without a look or a nod to making those roundabouts pleasant to look at.
Perfect. So we did not include things like that in the cost. So this is a planning level cost estimate.
Mhm.
So it's based
Okay.
on quantities. So I would imagine as we get further along, we can assess like part of the art, and there is areas in our design guidelines that allows us to do that. I'm not on the engineering side, so I can't give a lot of details, but I do know we've done it and had that in kind of like the outcome of another study that was done for my office.
What's from now till the last roundabout's put in, what's the time that WashDOT's estimating? Just a 20-year project? Is this
We have not assessed kind of that piece. The Covington roundabout, I know that you guys are leading, is one, I believe Delaney sent me the update on the timeline. I do believe it's still in design, but I can check it, pick at my email as well. We don't have a timeline. The next thing we need to do is assess funding in order to keep progressing it. Once we can get additional funding that will give us a better assessment of existing conditions, like right away, and some of the other detailed data we weren't able to use in this study, we'll have a better sense of what the timeline looks like.
great? Thank you.
Beth?
Two questions. Are there any other locations in the state that have that many roundabouts in that, to me, in my mind, shorter span, and just to kind of experience what that might be like with that type of traffic flow?
Go ahead, Christina.
To be honest, I'm not sure if there's 5 so close together. There's definitely locations where we have the peanut type design or roundabouts that are essentially so close together they're basically touching, or a series of 2 or 3 or sometimes 4. I would need to go back and look to see, and I don't know off the top of my head because the area that I cover is King County specifically. So my off the top of my head knowledge of other locations in the state is not perfect. But I can think of a couple where there's 2 or 3, but I would need to do some research to see if there's this many off the top of my head. Apologies.
Okay, were the 2 or 3? You said those were where?
We just opened a couple up in Lake Stevens. There's also some, what's the name of that roadway that is out this way near SR 104? Hold on. They call it Locust and Larch. Oh yes, it's SR 524 near, I guess this is technically in Linwood. The Locust and Larch roundabouts. There's also one's a pair at a ramp terminal intersections currently being constructed on I-5 at 145th Street in Shoreline / Seattle. There's also I'm blanking.
It's okay. That's
Sorry.
good. Thank you. I appreciate that's helpful. And the other thing is it possible to get a PDF of the presentation emailed? So
Yeah, I can get that. I do believe I sent Delaney the PowerPoint already because I wasn't sure if
okay.
I'd be able to share my screen.
We have it.
Okay.
Yeah,
thank
we'll
you.
send it to you.
Great. Thank you so much.
Anybody else? April and Christina, thank you very much for giving us this update. We really appreciate you keeping us in the loop of what's going on, and we look forward to hearing more from you in the near future.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having us.
You bet. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
All right, next, let's move into the public recognition of our 47th district legislators. If council could please join me in front of the dais.
Mayor Wagner.
Yes,
I
I
just
got
want
that.
to, Representative Entman. Oh, you got it?
Yep.
Okay.
Senator Kaufman and Representative Stearns can join us up front. And just to let everybody know, Representative Entman is unable to join us tonight. She had something come up and sends her sincere apologies for not being here. Like, really?
Or Weimar.
Nice.
I had it especially made for tonight.
Wow. You're the
That idea to Michelle.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor, could you please either move your microphone to pick up a little bit more, or we can have you hold the wireless mic? It's not picking up very loudly online. Thank
It's
you.
very rare that I'm told that nobody can hear me. Does this work now? Okay. So Senator Kaufman, Representative Stearns, we just want to really thank you for all that you've done for us in Olympia, and not just in Olympia, but in our communities. I see you around at ribbon cuttings, at different events, and the thought of you being here and helping us, whether you're here or in Olympia, and even during, when you're not in session, is greatly appreciated. So we have several projects that you've helped us with, but the key one that everybody keeps asking when it's gonna be finished, which will be this fall, is for Highway 516. And the fact that you were able to help us get funding and secure additional funding when the prices went up and things, unforeseen events happened. We have two gifts. We have a gift for each of you. And in the gifts is a traffic cone, which is what some people call the state flower now. And then there's some, yeah, because they always happen to pop up in the springtime. And then there are little cars in there as well. To thank you for helping us get through this and helping us succeed. I mean, it's been a long project. I think we got original funding quite some time ago. I think you were in office at the time, and it's finally coming to fruition. And it's getting over that choke point over Jenkins Creek and helping Salmon and us get through there. And then the trail underneath and the artwork's been put on yet, or is it in progress? Some of it's been put on now. So we'll have to take a trip out there and we'll do a ribbon cutting when it's final. We won't stop traffic. We'll do it off to the side because people have stopped enough.
Cones.
You have the cones, yeah. Yep, that's right. Yeah, why don't you?
I'm going to. Ooh, look at that. Nice. I've grown as a kid, these were my favorite things.
Yep. Still got mine from my girl.
Oh, wow.
You're good.
It's very thunderous. Yeah, look at that. There you go. Now I can reserve my parking.
There you go.
Yeah, here in Covington, that's good.
Yep.
In the spring next year that I see that on your desk there.
Yeah, leave my parking spot out front.
There you go.
All right, let's have you scooch together a little bit. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Smile there. There we go.
Thank you.
Representative
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you. Is there anything either one of you would like to say?
I will say that it is an absolute joy to do whatever I can to help the city of Covington and the people in Covington. And you guys work your butts off, so I'm grateful for all that.
Well, likewise, thank you.
I underscore that and say it's been a pleasure and an honor working with the city of Covington, with you, our mayor, and with all our city council members. Enjoying the relationships, enjoying the invitation to events. I appreciate that. And then just doing the work of the people and doing it together. We have a great team in the 47 for the experience. And Tim and myself work well together and fight hard for the city of Covington.
And you guys return my phone calls. And I appreciate that. So thank you. All right. Thank you all very much. And let's take a 10-minute break for reception. We have cake. So thank you. And thanks for being here. Welcome back from our reception for our awesome 47th District representatives and senator. Thank you. Next up for public communication is an update from our community care specialist, Darren Patterson, with an annual report. Welcome, Darren.
All right. Hello, my name is Darren Patterson. I'm the community care specialist for the city of Covington. For those of you who don't know, my role is to respond to requests for assistance from those in need of various resources ranging from behavioral health, substance use, housing, domestic violence, and other non-emergent essential needs from law enforcement agencies, agency partners, or community members. To date, we've served 90 individual care seekers. Across these 90 individuals served, we've provided 122 distinctive care coordination services. This means that 23 of those individuals required one or more care coordination services. This involved 517 individual service encounters. Each care coordination service averaged about 5 individual service encounters. The average length of each service encounter is about 45 minutes. As you can see here on the left, the predominant encounter type consists of largely of follow-up activities, collateral contacts, and administrative encounters. This is not surprising because much of the activity involves coordinating services for those that are seeking resources and following up with them or the agency to ensure that the services were provided accordingly. To this end, you can see that on the right that the predominant encounter method is over the phone, because much of the time is consumed attempting to contact the resource provider or working with the individual. And the second most predominant method is in person, and then email, virtual, other, and some over text. So when I begin working with someone, one of the very first things I do is, as part of my overall needs assessment process, is I outline what someone's individual needs or goals are. As you can see here, the majority, 49% of goals and needs were reported to be related to housing. The rest of the goals needs were reported in descending order as follows: clothing, food, basic needs, transportation, substance use, pro-social activities, social support, mental health. In conflict with this, I've collected self-reporting data, which reflected 23% of the clients self-reported experiencing some kind of mental health related issue or concern. And similarly, 20% of the clients self-reported experiencing substance use related issues or concerns. When you consider the nature, this figure may not seem all that high, but when you consider the nature of how self-reported data is obtained, which is often on the side of the road in a first-time encounter with somebody that is relatively unknown to the individual I'm interacting with, I would consider this figure to be statistically significant. To me, this demonstrates a pattern that clients are exhibiting mental health and substance use disorder who are maybe not ready, willing, or able to participate in services at the date and time of the contact. My theory on this is based on my observation and the research I've done on trauma-informed care practices, is that psychological trauma is pervasive throughout the homeless population. This means that the person experiencing homelessness can be easily overwhelmed by certain intervention options because many possess a diminished capacity for effective coping and emotional regulation. In terms of agency referrals, AHA represented 27% of the referrals, Safe Car Park 13, Salvation Army Street Level 13, Recovery Navigator Program 13, the Storehouse 9, and 25% was to miscellaneous other agencies. The dispositional data I retained indicated that 14% of the AHA clients referred to the program failed to follow through with the program enrollment. What this means is I basically set up a date and a time working with the AHA supportive housing case manager for them to begin their program intake, and for whatever reason, the client no called, no showed, or just didn't enroll. I believe this data offers support for my theory with respect to trauma-informed practices. One possible method to address this is to provide a low barrier to entry option. A low barrier to entry option could provide a sort of graduated rehousing schedule that would allow for those who are experiencing trauma to begin to receive services at a level consistent with their capacity to respond to it. Those who are experiencing trauma may not be ready, willing, or able to participate in supportive housing, which I would place at a higher phase in the spectrum along the graduated rehousing spectrum. Providing a low barrier option could aid the person experiencing homelessness in achieving what they call resiliency building. This means that they're more likely to be successful once they're ready, willing, and able, and then they're able to graduate to higher levels of care along the rehousing services spectrum. Unfortunately, less than 1% of the clients who are referred to Safe Car Park, which is a form of low barrier support, were able to get admitted to the program. So in terms of the direct aid budget that I utilized, the majority, 47%, was attributed to those with need of transportation assistance. These folks are typically living inside their vehicle, lacking sufficient income to be able to afford to pay for fuel for their vehicle. Aid is provided when I identify a pro-social goal that is established, such as enrolling into AHA, supportive housing, or any other, or some other form of social support, and that they're otherwise unable to get to. The remainder of funding is related to food assistance at 24%, minor auto repair at 13%, vehicle relocation assistance, phone assistance, homeless support, and financial assistance. Of note, 65% of all direct aid spending is related to services pertaining to car campers within the city. So in terms of the location, the majority of the encounters take place outside Walmart at 33%. The remainder take place within inner city locations at 18%, Kohl's 11%, Safeway 8%, at people's residence 5%, LA Fitness 4%, Fred Meyer's 3%, Home Depot 3%, Library 3%, and other assorted locations 7%. This data is consistent with what broken windows theory suggests, which is that signs of disorder and petty criminality can create an environment that is conducive to further disorder and petty crime. The authors of this theory explain that much can be determined by the strength of what they refer to as injunctive norms, which injunctive norms refers to the perception of disapproval of a particular kind of behavior, such as littering or graffiti, or in this case, multiple encampments developing in a given area. The strength of an injunctive norm is said to be determinative of either an order condition or a disorder condition within a given location. Evidence for this theory can be observed in the much higher rate of encounters at Walmart, which serves as an example of the disorder condition, compared to a much lower rate of encounters at Fred Meyer's, Home Depot, or the library, which serves as an example of the order condition. Oh, sorry, too fast. So just a few qualitative observations I've had. There's been increasing encounters with homeless transient persons residing in their vehicle within business parking lots. These vehicles are often inoperable, in need of repair, out of fuel, which contributes to an overall environment of urban decay that is conducive to an exponential increase in emerging encampments. A significant percentage of these encounters are with persons who exhibit signs of comorbid mental health and substance use disorder, and a percentage of those being encountered are refusing behavioral health, substance use, and supportive housing resources when offered. And one possible solution might be to increase low barrier to entry support, which could expand the scope of services to include those who are experiencing some kind of unaddressed psychological trauma. Questions?
You also have any questions for Darren? Debbie?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Darren, for this presentation. On the 1% that are ultimately admitted to the Safe Car Park, do we know why that percentage is so low?
Availability is one of the drivers.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Anybody else? Sean?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Darren. Appreciate it. Is Walmart open to working with us to make their parking lot, I guess, less attractive to that type of activity?
Certainly things that we've had during our internal discussions, bringing them in, maybe their loss prevention. I know I've begun collaborating with other outreach agencies to ramp up the outreach in that area, to try to be as proactive as possible. But I think it's an excellent idea.
Okay. And I think I brought it up before, but given we know of hotspots, for places or where people gather that end up being a source for contact. I would encourage us to look at permanent community bulletin boards in those areas with information on how to get resources. Cause you all can't be there all the time. And if that's where people are congregating and they don't have access to the internet or anything like that, we need to be reaching out to them as much as we possibly can. So I would start with bulletin boards in those parking lots and, you know, make them as visible as possible. So.
Definitely take that into consideration for sure.
Can you go back one slide? I have a couple of, did anybody else have questions? Okay, then, so first off, going off of the 33% at Walmart, and maybe Chief would have to answer this. Has Walmart started working with us to do emphasis patrols?
So Walmart frequently does reach out. We provide a lot of things that they can do, and then they never follow through.
Okay,
So that's been kind of frustrating because we have offered emphasis with them. We've offered to help. I had to beg them to give us trespass authority in the parking lot to the point where I reached out 6 or 7 times just to finally get them to sign a form. So it's very difficult to work with them to get progress on helping the problems that Darren's encountered.
okay. I was in the store last week. And yeah, it was unbelievable with what was going on. So I'm not surprised at that 33%. And then I had a question on this. So when you say a large portion encounter refusing behavioral health and housing resources and so on when offered, what is our next step that we do with it?
So my theory is that a lot of these people are experiencing trauma, some kind of trauma, and it's just trying to get them to adjust into a supportive housing platform is just at a higher level on the spectrum. If you think about it in terms of, you know, where they're at, because a lot of these people have been outside for so long since childhood in many cases. And so getting them to go inside, it's, you know, difficult. So providing them potential for like a low barrier where we could triage them and then connect them with a case manager who can then kind of identify where they're at and what their needs are is kind of been the idea that we've been kind of tossing around.
So do we just, then if they refuse services, they just continue staying on that? Like say if they were at Walmart, they just continue staying there at Walmart?
Well, we would at some point communicate obviously with the sheriff's department to relay that information if that needed to happen, or it'd be up to the business, I guess, to, you know, consider the trespass option. If
That's true. It's on private property. Okay. And then that would also be up to the business if that group was responsible for a lot of shoplifting, it would be up to Walmart or whichever business to pursue that as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, Christina?
Darren, can you go to slide 4? Please. One more. Can you elaborate? I mean, because housing it's not just double or triple, but it's so far above. And then there's the financial portion that's only 4 people.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
The stark difference between housing
Mhm.
and financial. I'm trying to understand this. Is it because is it that they can't finance a house? Is it financially? Is that the underlying reason? Because what does housing mean in this situation?
This means what their goal is when I encounter them. So envision, I can give an example of a gentleman that
Okay, so this is goals.
recently he was living in his vehicle outside of Walmart, and then I collaborated with another agency. They went out and talked to him, found out that he had some substance abuse related issues and concerns. They got him over to ABHS to do detox.
Yeah.
And then he went from there. We were able to get him into AHA. So,
Yeah.
that we would identify as a substance abuse related goal and then a housing related goal. And
So you
that-
can actually, there's like one person is multiple numbers here, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I feel like I'll have more questions, but thank you for now.
Jennifer.
Do we know how and why St. John's was inspired to start this particular ministry? I am just thinking, where did they get that idea and that passion? And are there other potential organizations, whether it be faith-based or not, that maybe just need to know there's a need? I would be curious. I think some of the founding members still run it. If they would be willing to share where that came from. I mean, where did the spark come from? Because maybe that spark could be somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean,
I can talk to that a little bit. It was driven by a couple of parishioners who had identified a need, I think, in their community, but also were inspired by what some other churches had done related to finding housing for unhoused people. It started small, and it's still, I think, only 6 spots.
But why Covington? Like, that's
Oh,
what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, 'cause it was a
why
person
here? Why
in that
them?
church
And
that-
how can we?
Yeah, well, I'm
Not
saying a person in
advertise,
the
but-
church, a member of St. John's kind of challenged the clergy to do something additional in their community. So I'm not saying it couldn't be replicated, but it was basically the brainchild of a couple of people in that church. It's now, I think those spots are, if not always, very regularly used. And they have a social worker that follows those people and tries to get them services. And some of the feedback they've heard for people that use it and are resistant to go into housing are often women and mothers that are escaping domestic abuse situations, and they're concerned that seems to be a safe place for them and they're away from their abuser, and going into housing is often not been a positive experience for them. So, yeah, I think other churches, I know we as a council talked about it. They came and presented to us. They actually held a community forum at the church about it because there was some concern from some of the other communities about what this potentially could, not so much what it was, but what it could evolve into, and how big would it get possibly? And so far I think they've managed it really well. I live right next door and have had absolutely no, I guess I got called one time, but otherwise you wouldn't even know it's there.
And the only reason it isn't bigger is because they don't have the resources to add more spots.
Mhm.
So, and they work with Catholic
Charities.
Yep.
Community services.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Anybody else? Darren, I just want to say thank you very much for all that you do. You're like a hidden resource that helps those in need. And I know you work with Julie and everybody else, with Adam and the team, so you are greatly appreciated for all the help that you provide out there.
Thank you.
So,
I appreciate the opportunity.
yep, thank you very much. Okay, let's move into our first public comment period. Speakers will state their name, organization, and whether they are a Covington resident. Comments are directed to the city council, not the audience or staff. Comments are to be related to city business. Comments are not intended for conversation or debate and are limited to 4 minutes per speaker. For attendees participating by Zoom, click the raise hand button. For attendees participating by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. Once the city grants permission to speak, press unmute in Zoom or dial *6 to unmute by phone. Notice that campaigning for any ballot measure or candidate at City Hall or during council meetings, including public comments, is prohibited by state law RCW 42.178.555. And seeing on here, I don't see anybody that's signed up. Is there anybody in the audience wishing to address council this evening? Is there anybody online wishing to address council? Please raise your hand. Seeing nobody raise their hand and nobody approach the podium, I will close this public comment period. We will have an opportunity, a second opportunity towards the end of our council meeting. Moving into approval of the consent agenda consisting of items C1 through C6. Their motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda has been approved. Move into new business. Item number 1 is the 2024 second quarter financial report. Casey.
Thank you, Mayor Council. All right, so jumping right in, second quarter financial reports. I'm gonna skip the first page in the report and just jump right into property taxes. Everything that's on the front page, I'll cover in the next pages. So for property taxes through second quarter, we brought in about 51.5% of our budget, or $1.7 million. So we're right on target for this year, where we should be. We've received our first half of collection that we usually receive in April, and then we'll receive the second half in November. So for the real estate excise taxes, through second quarter, our collections are 74.2% of budget. We did lower our budget a little bit this year to account for some of the things we were seeing with the interest rates and mortgages and things of that nature. So, but still, we are hitting our budget at 74.2%. The information I had in here for the home sales was through May, but I have some updated numbers for you through June now. There were 17 new home sales, 114 existing home sales, and then still 3 commercial sales, no building sales this year, and 3 lot sales through June. For retail sales taxes, our unrestricted sales tax, we are right on budget at 50.2%. Normally we're a little bit higher this time of year. We were conservative and we brought our budget down, but we're still just right at that 50.2%. So I'm watching that a little bit more carefully this year because I usually have a little bit more wiggle room than that at this point in the year. So will keep you posted as we move forward from quarter to quarter. Comparing each category to the second quarter of 2023, retail came in higher at 0.6%. Construction was lower at 16.2%. Food services were higher at 1.4%, and all other categories were 2.5% higher than the same point last year. Our total collections for HB 1406, those are a little lower, but they're also calculated a little bit differently. Those are where we receive a portion of sales tax of the state's collections. So they go from June to June, and there's also a cap. So once we reach that cap, they stop giving us contributions. And then when the next fiscal year starts, they start back up again. So we usually see in April, May, we don't receive any collections because we've reached our cap. And then in June, we start collecting again. So we're only at 34% of budget, but we'll make that up before the end of the year. Total collections for HB 1590, those are the same as our unrestricted collections. So we're again at 50.3%. And then same with the street fund TBD sales tax. We've brought it a little over $388,000 and that 0.1% for the TBD so far at 50.3% of budget. For utility taxes, you'll see a couple new ones that have popped up this time. We've got the sewer on here and we've also got the water. So I just want to make a correction for the total collections. Our budget doesn't include those two. So if I remove those two, we're still at 51.6% of budget. So we're still hitting our budget estimates for this time of year. I will say that I don't really know the cycles yet for the water and sewer to know what times of the year it's going to be higher, what times it's going to be lower. Our water looks like it's coming in based on the estimates that the water district provided me, but the sewer looks a little low. But I don't know if maybe that'll catch up during the winter. So I'm keeping an eye on that. And I know the finance director over there, so I'll reach out to him if I have any questions. Okay. And then for the general fund, operating revenues are at 54.4% of budget. So right where we would want to be this time of year. Our total expenditures, excluding our transfers, are at 61.9% over the same period last year. And our total budget, including transfers, we're at 39.7% of budget. So we're a little under budget from where we are this year, and I will mention that that is because we did not receive our, oh no, we did receive it. So there's a couple that I want to point out here. So city council, you can see we've already reached 75% of budget. And that is only because you guys have some one-time things that we pay out, like some dues and memberships at the beginning of the year. But we also paid out the skip construction dollars this year, so that was different from last year, so that was a big jump. And then central services has some one-time things like WCIA insurance and things of that nature that we pay early in the year. And then parks maintenance is a little bit over budget, but that is going to be offset with a grant on the revenue side, and that was for the CCP turf replacement project. And then the Parks Department shows it's a little over budget. There was some corrections, some bars code corrections that took place in July that actually reduced that budget line item down to 53%. So just fairly over budget for this time of year. So for Public Works, we're looking at the street fund and the swim fund. So for the street fund, total operating revenues are at 50.1%. So right at that marker for this time of year. And total expenditures, excluding the transfers out, are 41.7. And generally, I look at my revenues over my expenditures, and I always tell you how much of the general fund subsidy there is. It's a little bit more difficult now that the TBD sales tax is in there. But there's $348,000 that is coming in from the general fund that still is required in the street fund to keep it solvent, because we are transferring 100% of those TBD sales tax dollars out to the overlay program. So there's $301,000 that's gone out so far this year that's supporting our overlay program that's coming in from that 0.1% for the TBD sales tax. So for the swim fund, on the revenue side, we've collected 52.6% of our levy so far this year. Again, the rest should be coming in November. And then on the total expenditure side, we're at 39.2% of budget, so under where we should be this time of year, so that's great. Development services. Development services, our total revenue is at 66.6% of budget. So we're starting to see those revenues creep back up. They've been lower the last couple of years. So this is a 31.9% increase over 2023. The number of permits for single family residents are at 34 compared to 15 last year. So that's moving in the right direction also. And for all other permit categories, there was 208 permits issued this year compared to 204 in 2023. So still comparable there, but we've more than doubled our single family residences. Our total operating expenditures are at 40%, 40.7% of budget. So again, under budget for this time of year. Aquatics, recreation, and cultural arts. The aquatics revenue is at 55.6% of budget, and recreation is at 60.5% of budget. So again, those are both doing well for this time of year. On the expenditure side, aquatics is at 48.6, so under, and recreation is at 45.9 and under. And just in case you're looking at the splash counts, you can see that 2024 is a little bit lower than 2023. And it just touched bases with Landon, and he said that the recreation swims and some of the private rentals are down, but their revenues are still on target and their expenditures are under budget. So we're not too concerned with that trend. For cash and investments, our total cash and investments were over $44 million currently. It's a little bit of a decrease from June of 2023, and I will show you a couple things that are making that difference. The local government investment pool, we've earned 5.4% in interest. Doing so great in interest. You guys probably remember when it was under 1% a few years ago, so that's fantastic. So we have 36 million in the LGIP. Investments outside of the LGIP, we have 7.9 million. And the only one I just wanted to mention is you'll see the general fund, you'll see a big difference of the $3.2 million drop between 2024 and 2023. And that is last year was the last year we received the ARPA funds. So those $2.9 million are no longer coming in annually. For the capital investment program, we'll go over all of the projects, but I just wanted to point out the annual overlay, the 301,000, that's the TBD sales tax revenue that I was talking, that we transfer that in each month that it comes in. So it goes straight into that to build it up for overlay projects. And then the other thing I wanted to mention is the Public Works Trust Fund loan. It's now paid off. We paid it off June 1st. So No more loan payments on that one. And nothing has changed on our 2016 refunded bonds. Our principal payment isn't due until November 1st. And then I just wanted to mention one thing on our interfund loans. This is super tiny writing, but the very bottom project, CIP 1028, has actually been paid off now. So that one has dropped off of the loans. And that is all I had, and I'm happy to answer any questions anybody has.
Thank you, Casey. Does council have any questions for Casey? No? Thank you very much, and just please pass on to your entire team. It is a pleasure to work with them, especially during city bill review audit committee time. So thank you.
I will. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Next is new business item number 2, review the strategic plan. Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So what we'll be reviewing tonight is our 2023 through 2027 strategic plan. The plan is organized by strategic priority, which coincides with the council's goals. We're there on that big poster there. So last year we worked together to develop this plan, and now staff has been working on much of it. One thing we've noticed is there is some repetition or redundant nature in some of the action items under the same priorities or different priorities. So we'll be working to consolidate some of those that will create greater efficiencies as we work to fulfill these action items. Also, some on the document that you'll have in your packet will show that the action item is not started, when in fact it has been, just that status has not been updated. So I'll just review quickly kind of some general things that are happening in each of the strategic priorities that are on the strategic plan. So priority 1, as you know, is a robust and resilient economy. In this one, we've met with several landowners and commercial brokers to help promote their space and to develop material that they would find useful in their recruiting efforts. We've been reviewing certain permitting processes and how we can create greater efficiencies there. We are growing our clean team presence by adding volunteers through different programs to keep the city clean and neat. We're consistently reaching out to our businesses with sponsorship opportunities and providing helpful material to them for them to be involved and engaged in the community through our business to business outreach and our downtown association. Also, CEDAS has conducted several surveys that they've taken around to the businesses and asked what are their major issues, what are some of the things they're feeling, what do they enjoy about doing business in Covington, and what are some of the hurdles that they face. Any questions on priority 1 before I move on to 2? Okay, so priority 2 is a socially vibrant destination. On this one, so far, we've installed additional banners in our downtown. The reader board was budgeted and has now been ordered. We've been improving our summer concert series by adding food trucks. CEDAS supported a new event called Restaurant Week that many of you were involved in partnership with the chamber. And we'll be doing that again next year in 2025, spring most likely. We're planning the Makers Market and a drive-in movie at the Town Center lawn. So that'll be fun. That's coming up this fall. And we're continuing our community center planning, and street projects are underway and coming along nicely. Any questions on any priority 2 items? Okay, priority 3 is a commitment to health and safety. We're working on a partnership with a local medical organization. We've implemented resident-based policies. We're continuing to have discussions with Kent School District on our shared use agreement and the use of Kent School District facilities for our athletics programs. We've implemented this year, as we've talked about a little bit, the park pop-ups weekly throughout the summer, which have been a huge success at Covington Community Park. We're working on requirements for permanent supportive housing and conducting a human services needs assessment. Any questions on priority 3? Okay, we'll move on to the last one, priority 4, which is exceptional city services. In this one, we've been working on improved response times. We've implemented certain software allowing us to provide better customer service to those who work with and engage with the city. We're holding gatherings for council to interact with residents like Covington Days, National Night Out, Mayor's Meetups, and our outdoor town hall that the mayor mentioned coming up in a week and a half. We've drafted an incentive program to be able to provide incentives for people engaging in surveys and other data gathering methods that we'll be pursuing. And that those incentives have been provided. I think we provide incentives for the human services assessment as well. We provide opportunities for council members to speak at local schools. And we've worked with the council on code compliance and priorities in our code compliance efforts. So that's a quick and dirty of what's been happening with the strategic plan. Happy to address anything in more detail if you'd like. Yeah.
Jennifer?
I noticed you said town center lawn. Is there going to be a lawn there?
Well, there is a lawn there.
Yeah.
We're just going to improve it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of
The dirt patch?
that's what we've been working on as to solidify kind of our marketing campaign
Okay.
about getting people there. And we narrowed it down to town center lawn. So we'll be working on that to
It
make
does
it.
sound great.
Yeah.
I definitely picked up on that.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And Cedar Heights is on board to have us come out again and speak.
Right.
Yep. All right. Anybody else? Thank you, Regan.
Yeah, you bet.
Let's move into new business item number 3. To discuss a proposed ordinance repealing the annual vehicle license fee, section 12.125.045 of the Covington Municipal Code, contingent upon certification of passage of Proposition 1. Regan.
Oh, you want to do it? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So before you tonight is an ordinance that will repeal the annual vehicle license fee contingent upon the certification of the passage of Proposition 1. So I am manifesting a favorable vote and doing this ahead of time. But the reason we had to do this is because the Department of Licensing requires 120 days notice in order to repeal the fee. And if we want to implement the sales tax, Mark said, as long as we rescind this fee before we do the sales tax implementation, we're fine. But if I waited until the first meeting in September, then there'd be people that would get charged from the 1st to the 8th in January for the vehicle license fee. And it just felt a little funny to me if we're going to implement that sales tax. I just didn't want I didn't want that week. I didn't want anybody to see that pop up on their taps. So that's why we're bringing this to you early, just so that it gives the Department of Licensing that extra little bit of time so it can be effective December 31st if it's a favorable vote. As of right now, we are 640 votes up to the yes. And since Friday, only an additional 27 ballots have been counted. So we're hoping that we're getting close to being finished with that. But so that is what is before you tonight. If it does not get certified by the county or it does not pass, then this will be null and void and that vehicle license fee will remain in place. And then the sales tax would not be implemented on January 1st.
Does council have any questions for Casey?
So moved.
Okay, so before us tonight is a motion to approve an ordinance repealing section 12.125.045 of the Covington Municipal Code, contingent upon passage of Proposition 1. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been seconded.
We're all jumping into that.
Joe, would you like to speak to your motion?
Having been on council for the past Proposition 1s and having them not make it, this is bittersweet, and I'm very happy that we're able to get this passed. As we do have a week left, so I'll keep knocking on wood every time I say that. But this is us living up to a promise we made. This is us living up to a promise we made the first time we ran this proposition. And every time we've ran this proposition, we have promised that we would remove the $20 car tab fee. And this is showing that we stay with our word, that we are going to do what we say, and we're going to better our community. And this is helping with the passage of Prop 1. Not only is the Covington community paying for this, but everybody who comes through these streets and stops at Fred Meyer, stops at Walmart, stops at Jack in the Box, they're helping to pay for these roads and that they're using. So by removing the car tab fee, we're removing the burden from only Covington residents, and I wholeheartedly support this.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Jennifer, would you like to speak to your second?
Sure. I'm excited to pass the savings on to Covington residents. As we all know, that this actually is less money to our residents by increasing the sales tax on taxable items that do not include food. So, you know, as a household with 2 young adult drivers, I mean, just my house will be saving, you know, probably $65 a year, which isn't a ton, but it's definitely, it's rare that we get to actually give people money essentially. So that's what it feels like. So yes, I'm excited to support.
Thank you, Jennifer. Anybody else wishing to speak for or against the motion? Beth?
I appreciate the foresight and the planning in this so that we can be more proactive. And it'll allow us to continue to support the intent of the council and city. So thanks for not having it wait, because agreeing that we wouldn't want some people to have a different experience if their tabs were due in the beginning of the year. And we will have more money in our street fund that we need while we're discounting it to residents. So.
Thank you, Beth. Christina?
Yeah, I just want to say I'm extremely excited and so grateful. I know I wasn't on council the last time this was tried, but I just knew there was something different after, you know, post-pandemic and whatnot. And I'm so glad that we did take that leap of faith and just believed in our residents. And if anybody's watching, thank you for believing in us and allowing us to live up to our word and to serve you back and to do exactly what we said. And thank you to staff for just getting on it. And even the, you know, those 8 days. Who would have caught that? Casey, of course. But thank you for being diligent, and I'm just really excited that this is where we are.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak for or against the motion? I just want to read what's in our blue sheet here, a portion of it, so that everybody can hear this. Because of the timing of this agenda item, and to immediately fulfill our promise to repeal the vehicle license fee, council is considering this ordinance prior to certification of the election results. If council approves the ordinance tonight, the vehicle license fee will be repealed only if the passage of Proposition 1 is certified. And so the effective date of the repeal will be on December 31st of 2024 to coincide with the implementation of the new sales tax effective January 1st, 2025. But if the proposition fails or is not certified, the repeal of the vehicle license fee will be null and void. So this is just to state that we as a council promised our residents that we would not enact this sales tax unless we repeal the vehicle license fee. So I just wanted to put that in the record. All right. It has been moved and seconded to approve an ordinance repealing section 12.125.045 of the Covington Municipal Contingent upon passage of Proposition 1. All those in favor state aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes. Thank you all very much. That concludes new business. Looking at future agenda items, our next council meeting is not until Tuesday, September 10th. We have canceled our August 27th meeting, so this is our last meeting of the summer. And we do have a town hall meeting on August 23rd out at Covington Community Park. And does council have anything else they'd like to see on a future agenda item? All right, let's move into council staff comments. We'll start with Chief.
Aloha Council. Thank you all for participating in National Night Out. We had a lot of officers there. It was a great success in our eyes. 2 of us have participated in Kids Fest. We handed out over 500 swag bags of items, and we ran out, so that was a good thing. Lots of people there. It was a great event. And then last Thursday, we did a shop nemesis with Safeway. We made 9 arrests for theft during our about 8-hour emphasis, so very busy. That's all I have.
Thank you, sir. Ethan.
Nothing from me tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Don.
Sorry, he actually was catching a flight, so he left about.
Oh, I'm here. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
there he is.
I'm about to take off, so I apologize. I just want to tell everybody that final paving on Jenkins Creek will be starting next week during the night. So they will be scheduled to pave all of that during the nighttime next week. So that'll be the last biggest part for that project.
Nice.
So want to let you guys know that.
Are they gonna be
That's
putting
it.
are they putting landscaping in, or is it just the bark?
Plants won't come in until the fall.
Okay,
So they'll plant those in the fall, but they'll have the bark in, and then later on they'll come in and do that.
thank you. Thank you, Don.
That's it.
Have a safe flight.
Everybody got
Thanks.
that?
I'm sure.
Paving next week? No.
Yep. Selena,
Sorry, there we go. Hey, good evening, council. I just had two things to report tonight. One is that as of this morning, Brook Cal Toll Brothers, the Lake Point development, has all of their permits to complete the Covington connector. So that just went out this morning.
Oh, nice.
I mean, they've been working on it in phases, but today was the final phase of a permit. So that's exciting for them. And then also we are having what would really be kind of our first public hearing for the first project that's actually down in the pit area. You know, Maple Hills 5 was part of that development, but next on August 22nd will be the hearing for the first set of like Lake Point housing, and they've got about 189 units proposed plus a lot of park space. So exciting things are starting to come to fruition there. And I've got other things that I've given to Regan that will probably be in a future update. Just kind of a lot of construction going on right now. Other than that, have a wonderful summer.
thanks, Selena. Casey,
Nothing for me tonight. Thank you.
thanks, Casey. Mark,
There's no executive session and I have no additional report. Thank you.
thanks, Mark. Regan,
So as Jeff mentioned, we do have our outdoor town hall coming up next Friday. I did send an email out with some details about it maybe a week or two ago. But we will have a city booth, city council booth from 5 to 7. At that, we'll have crumble cookies that the council can give away. We thought that's what can get people to the city council booth.
Yeah.
It will be free crumble cookies. But you'll also have coupons for a free taco from the taco truck. If or once those run out, then there will be opportunities for the council, maybe the second hour from 6 to 7, that you can mingle with people. You can visit the other city booths that will be there with the projects and whatnot, and participate in those. And then from about 7:15 to 8:15, because the movie starts at 8, we're going to pull out the popcorn machine and start making some popcorn. So if council would like to help with that, that would be Jeff's in. That would be fantastic. So we'll be popping popcorn and handing that out to those who are coming to attend the outdoor movie.
I love popping popcorn.
I'll send, I do too, actually. I'll send an email out, and then if you just want to let me know who is able to help with the popcorn, we'll get it set up. Thank you.
Thanks, Regan. Krista,
Good evening, council. I have nothing to report tonight. Thank you.
thank you. Christina,
Yeah, just wanted to say National Night Out was amazing. I only crossed over with I think only Jeff and Sean are the only two people I saw out there. But it was awesome. I will say I was pleasantly surprised when talking about the ballot measure, how many people got it, like just really got it. And even formed some yes committees, to which I was very excited about. But what a great time. Always nice to see our city staff and parks and everyone out in the community and with our residents. And I'm looking forward to the end, well, not to the end of summer, but I'm looking forward to enjoying the rest of summer, even though I hear there's some rainy days coming. And I will see you all in September. And thank you all for an amazing job.
thanks, Christina. Beth,
Just underscoring what Christina said about National Night Out. We had the opportunity to visit quite a few different communities, and it's always fun to just kind of sit back and sometimes you go there thinking they're all going to bend your ear and want to talk about what's on their mind. And some of them do, but some of them just want to get to know you on a personal level and have fun and share and here, have a piece of pizza. And so it's just definitely a different feel. And then when the fire truck comes, that's all gone. And then the kids,
Yeah.
hey, that's great. Glad to take care of the kiddos too. So, just something to bring up. The King County Veteran Seniors and Human Services Levy is going to be doing a mental health community planning session. And I think it's going to be in the community room here on August 29th from 2:30 to 4:30 p.m. Engaging with the community and getting feedback on veterans and senior caregivers, mental health services and getting feedback on that. And so it is open to the community. If you know anyone that might be interested, it's always great to have as many people as possible giving feedback for those types of programs. And then also Purple Light Night will be happening again this September, last Saturday in September 28th. And we'll start at 6 p.m. We'll have the 2K walk around the city, and then the tree lighting will be at 7:30. Mayor's going to speak. City's been helping with that. So save the date, and it's always great. The Purple Light Night, for those that may not be aware, was a campaign to help raise awareness for domestic violence and to provide celebration for survivors, to show support for those that are going through domestic violence, and to honor and provide support for those who may have lost loved ones to domestic violence. And so it started in Covington circa 2005. So it is a local tradition that has spread to several nations and across the country. And so we like to take pride in keeping that tradition alive as much as we can in our city. So hopefully people can make it.
Thanks, Beth. Sean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple things to report. This Thursday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., the Puget Sound Regional Fire Authority will be providing a tour of a electric fire engine, fully electric fire engine that the department is studying for future purchase. They have already purchased a fully electric fleet vehicle for the chief, but they are definitely moving toward having a fleet of vehicles that run on a variety of different fuels and energy. So that, like I said, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the RFA headquarters and training facility in Kent. That's 24523 116th Avenue in Kent. So I think I'll go over around noon just to check it out, but everyone else is invited as well. I'll reiterate the previous comments about National Night Out. It was great. I think this is like the 9th one I've done, and I'm slowly making it through all the neighborhoods. I kind of stayed on the west side of Covington. Stayed on the west side of Covington. This time went to Tamarack Ridge, Morgan's Creek, and Fairwood. A highlight of some of the feedback I'll provide, there were some themes. Tamarack Ridge was obviously concerned about the best facility and continue to ask about that. And we're very thankful about our moratorium in the city. They also asked about, was glad to hear Selena mention when they can expect the Covington connector to be finished. And then when we'll start seeing building in the Lake Point, and then what potential impact that'll have on 256 as traffic starts running from the east side of Covington through the west, taking the connector and going on 256. So Morgan's Creek, similar traffic. We're starting to see people cutting through the YVAG development and coming through our neighborhood. So they were starting to get concerned about traffic counts and speed. In fact, when we were out there for National Night Out, we did have one person come through fairly quickly. And there's a turn there where you can't see people, so it could have easily hit someone there. So also, and I already mentioned this to the chief, someone mentioned that they are seeing squatters in the YVAG development, that those buildings aren't watched at night. So they're seeing people staying in those to be built buildings. So just, I guess, something to think about. I mean, it is private property, but yeah, concerned about that. And then for Fairwood, they are, again, traffic was one of the big issues. They're seeing a lot of increased traffic and what they estimate as high speeds on 260th as people cut from 156th all the way over to 164th. It's basically a straight shot and, across there. So they'd like to see, are interested in ways to help keep that traffic at 25 miles an hour. And this is something I'll follow up with Selena. There was a question about a need for a permit to put new windows in their house. One of the new homeowners was surprised that they'd had to get a permit to put new windows. And then the green belt behind or next to Fairwood, there were questions about tree maintenance. There's some dead trees there, I guess, that some of the people are concerned about. So I'll follow up with you, Regan, on those. So, and then a shout out to the fire department, police department, public works, had heavy participation and at these, and those big vehicles are always a draw. So really appreciate it. So that's it.
Thank you, Sean.
Yep.
Debbie.
Thank you. I didn't take any notes at my NNO events, but I did Maple Hills and Lake Winterwood, which was the first time I'd done Lake Winterwood. It was great. And back to my neighborhood, High Point, and then didn't make it to Foxwood in time. But by the time I got back to High Point, a couple of you had come through, so I appreciate that. And I went to put my swag out and there was already swag left from other people, so I brought some back to Krista. Anyway, I always look forward to that. It's a great way to interact with residents, and they were all very appreciative of the fact that we come out, but especially, more importantly, the police department and the fire department, because the kids love that interaction. And Adam was doing a great job of handing out the little plastic cups. I'm excited to announce that King County Metro agreed to move the bus stop that was previously east of 204th. So it was impeding residents' ability to get out of off of 204th turning left, because the bus had no turn in lane. They had to stop right in the middle of the road. And so it bogged down eastbound traffic on 516, but also 204th. So they agreed to move it to the west side of 204th. They said it would be done in 2 weeks. I didn't drive by to see if it's done yet. Don's gone, so I would have asked him. But anyway, I got that news just before I went to the Maple Hills NNO event, and they were really surprised that we actually accomplished that. It was through a lot of help of Don and his team. As it turns out, from what I heard from Regan and Don, is it was in the original design plan of 204th that the bus stop would have been on the west side. So it was inadvertently put on the east side. Anyway, so that's done. And then I just wanted to share some of the great things happening in our community by our business community. We have some of the most caring businesses out there. And so I've participated in some of these, and I'm seeing them going on, but I just wanted to tell you that both Red Canoe Credit Union and Stephanie Hunziker Real Estate have been doing school supply drives. And Newberry Realtor, who just opened up a new office in the building where Bruchel's is, they're doing a blood drive called Battle of the Badges. So it's a battle between the police department and the fire department. It's on August 17th. Anybody can go give blood. And that's on September 3rd. all donors will get a gift card. They didn't say where to. Hopefully it's not to the police department. And then numerous businesses have been stepping up to support the storehouse. So people like our own Krista Bates has become a partner of the storehouse, and Kona Ice not only became a partner, but they also donated a portion of their proceeds from Covington Days to the storehouse. And then most recent, last weekend, Tamarpal and Roosterettos joined forces to do a peanut butter and jelly drive. It was called PB&J, Jam. So it was a jam music, but you brought peanut butter and jelly. And they raised, I believe, 500 jars of peanut butter and jelly and some cash donations. So, and that just shows that our business community really cares about our residents, because these were all to support efforts going on through our nonprofits. That's all I had. I will be at town hall. I'm going to be leaving to go to Alaska, but I'll be back in time for that. And are we doing a sign up anywhere for the council booth?
No, not for that, just for the popcorn.
Okay. Well, I'll do the booth and popcorn.
Just for the popcorn.
Okay.
I pop it, so I can eat it.
I want to
Yeah,
eat it. Thank you.
Yeah, National Night Out was great. I will say, in addition to police and firefighters, Public Works is a huge hit. Those tractors start coming down the road and literally, I'm like, okay, I don't even need to be here. Also, people really like the swag. I do have some to return to Krista, but that's it's a really good entry point. People see you start handing stuff out to the kids and then they start swarming you. So that's really handy. I didn't have any like really specific feedback shared with me. It was definitely interesting compared to what I'm used to. People just are very content with how things are going and just, happy to be out on a beautiful day. And really like Covington, I met people that just moved here and people that had lived here, 20 years. So it was a fun event. I missed Kids Fest for probably the first time ever. My daughter doesn't realize it yet, but at some point it's going to occur to her that we were not in town for that. And I will not be at the town hall. I leave for vacation on Friday and won't be back until later in August. I did want to thank staff for really being proactive with making a last minute change to the agenda, purely just to ensure that our residents for the first eight days of January are not charged car tax in addition to the sales tax increase. So really, really a huge thank you for that. That really continues to model that positive, impactful, excellent service by the city, but it shows that we're walking the walk, not just talking the talk. And then, I have an updated interlocal agreement to send to you from Riot 9 that needs legal review by September 20th. I am going to find the edited version, so it's, I feel like, easier to go through. Nothing major was changed, so I expect a quick review, but and they'll be setting up a call for cities, councils to, or council to ask questions, meaning our attorney, not this council, COUNSEL. So anyway, I'll get that out tonight or tomorrow to designated parties. That's it.
Thanks, Jennifer. Joe?
So I had a crazy week. I had a pipe burst in my house about a week and a half ago. So National Night Out for me was great. It got me out of my house and got me to not worry about all the wonderful issues that were going on in my house. Still don't have a sink in my kitchen at the moment, but I also don't have flooring, cabinets, or a countertop. So I'm okay. Other than that, National Night Out was great. I basically shadowed Debbie. I went to Lake Winterwood and to High Point. I got to speak with Senator Kaufman at High Point. We talked about transportation and seeing if I couldn't get some help from her and working with King County to possibly get them to put a move on getting new routes out to this area, because as I said at our last meeting, all routes that have been planned through 2050 with King County Metro do not include Covington, Maple Valley, Black Diamond, certain sections of the Kent East Hill, Enumclaw, basically anything we want. So I'm hoping to get some additional help there and working with the RTC. But I think National Night Out was great. I got to talk to some great people out at Lake Winterwood, talk with some great people out at High Point. I did meet a person who has just moved up here from Portland, been in the city for like 10 months, really enjoyed, isn't liking the city, asking all the pertinent questions of, what's going on in the city, what are we doing here, what's new, why are we doing X, Y, and Z? And it was great to talk with someone who's wanting to understand all that. I'm not certain they want to get involved with the city. They work for Nordstrom, so I'm not sure. But I did also at Lake Winterwood speak with somebody who is retiring from their job. He's going to spend the next 4 months traveling though. But he would love to look into some volunteer opportunities once he gets back. So probably be more towards November, December air time frame. But so there's that. Also, I want to give a big shout out to Public Works. I saw them out in my neighborhood fixing some sections of road today that have been a problem for a few years, and they're out there. They fixed it, and then they filled some potholes. So my car is thankful for that. I also want to remind everyone that in the next 2 weeks, school starts again. So be on the lookout for kids as they're walking on the sidewalk to school. And with all that, one other announcement, as most of council knows, as everyone knows, I did my student teaching last year, and I have accepted a job at St. Therese Catholic Academy to teach middle school English. As much as I want to be teaching social studies, I will take teaching English. So if any of you have any good recommendations for 6th through 8th graders on books to read, let me know. Also, so next week, I will be rushing from Seattle to back here for the town hall meeting. I will be missing an event with staff at my school, but this has been on the calendar longer, and my principal will have to understand that. So
that's it. Thank you, Joe. First off, thank you all for partaking in the Aloha Night and celebrating our last meeting of the summer and helping advertise and let people know about our town hall meeting. I also want to thank every council member and staff and everybody who worked on getting the word out for our Proposition 1, helping with the education, the outreach, and helping to hopefully this being a successful proposition for our transportation. I had a wonderful vacation and I am glad to be back. I missed each of you, and yes, that's honest.
Even Joe.
Yep. Especially Joe.
why am I always the one?
But no, we had a great time, put 3,200 miles on the vehicle, and I hope to talk to Scott at with Brookfield, because the villages at Meridian, Idaho would fit perfectly in our Lake Point. It is one of the most amazing shopping experiences, even though my pocketbook felt it. But it's beautiful. And it's not just, they would have to downsize it to fit it into Lake Point. National Night Out was amazing. I want to also thank each of the council members. I had great comments from everybody about that they appreciated council showing up. Chief appreciated all the your team being there, and the fire department, Public Works, everybody who was out there. everybody I spoke with was very appreciative that we were out there and everything that we do for our city. So it's nice to hear all that. Because it wasn't, I had very few negative comments, except about a playground out in Maple Hills. So that they don't want to see another playground. So Maple Hills 5, they would rather see basketball courts instead of a playground. So that's the only thing that I had. Other than that, I don't have anything else, and I look forward to seeing everybody at the town hall on the 23rd. With that, we'll move into our second public comment period. Speakers will state their name, organization, and whether they are a Covington resident. Comments are directed to City Council, not the audience or staff. Comments are to be related to city business. Comments are not intended for conversation or debate and are limited to 4 minutes per speaker. For attendees participating by Zoom, click the raise hand button. For attendees participating by phone, dial *9 to raise your hand. Once the city grants permission to speak, press unmute in Zoom or dial *6 to unmute by phone. For anybody in the audience wishing to address council this evening. I was going to ask if anybody's online, but there's nobody online. So with that, we have no executive session tonight. This meeting is adjourned at 8:47.